Hey Jam Kids, it's Pastor Nancy. And as you can see behind me, I'm outside. And except for the moon and the stars, it's pretty dark out here. I have my lantern that Adric's letting me borrow. And I'm out here in the wilds of Walla Walla, hoping that late at night, I might be able to hear some animals. Because I don't know what happens. I'm usually asleep late at night in Walla Walla. Before I read tonight's story, I wanted to tell you that I talked to Timmy and Obasi today, and they miss you all. They miss school, they miss church, they miss their friends, and Obasi said he misses more than anything singing at church. He is in the Milton Church Kids Choir that Mrs. Morgan directs, and we can't wait to hear that choir again. So I'm hoping tonight to hear sounds. I don't know, it might not be late enough yet in spring, but I love the sound of crickets. In fact, when I was a little girl, I would go out at night and collect crickets and bring them into the house. And my mom would hear them and make, wait, do you hear the crickets? Oh, I love that sound. You know, they make that sound by rubbing their back legs together. You can try rubbing your knees together and see if you sound like a cricket. So before we read tonight's story, I want you to do a favor for me. I want you to go really fast, and I want you to grab your most treasured possession, the thing that you own that means the most to you, that you'd be really, really sad if something happened to it. Maybe it's a toy or a book or a musical instrument or a stuffed animal or a real animal or your mom or dad or your sibling. Maybe it's a picture of somebody you love. So go grab it, and I'm just going to sit here outside and wait for you, okay? Boy, those stars are pretty, Lord. Jesus and me, Jesus and me, we are jamming together. Boy, I miss singing that with everyone. Are you back now? Okay, hold on to your possession till the end of our story, which is called There Is a Way, and it's from the Guide Rescue book, because tonight we're going to talk about rescue. It promised to be a gorgeous Sabbath. The sun was already well overhead and the sky was clear and blue as we drove into the parking lot of the little church we were visiting that day. The morning services passed quickly, and soon we were on the beach enjoying a yummy picnic. That afternoon, my brother Craig and our friend Brett and I decided that the long open beach looked like a really good place to hike. My dad, however, seemed to think things differently. I don't think you should go far, he counseled. Besides, there's a good meeting this afternoon, and I know you kids are going to want to attend. No way, I complained. We don't want to sit through any meeting. What's wrong with going for a hike anyway? We won't be long, and we won't get into any trouble, I promise. Well, I really wish you would stay, said Dad, but if you have to go in that direction, then come straight back. Looking where he pointed, I saw the beach ended sharply, and huge cliffs rose up out of the water. But we can't go very far that way. That's exactly the idea, said Dad. So the three of us boys took off in the direction Dad had pointed to, and in half an hour we were as far as we could go. We were blocked by huge cliffs on one side and the ocean on the other. So imagine yourself right now, close your eyes, and to your right is the ocean, and to the left is big cliffs, and in front of you is cliffs, and there's nowhere to go except back if you want to be safe. Why couldn't we have gone another way, I complained, as if we would have gotten lost. Then the idea came to me. We would climb... Wait, what was that noise? Did you guys hear that? It sounds like a bear. Whew, it's gone. That gave me goosebumps. That kind of startled me. I didn't know Walla Walla had bears running around at night. Then the idea came to me. We could climb the cliff. The two younger boys were all for it and started up right behind me. But soon my little ledge came to an end, and I could see the rocks hiding under the surface of the water far below. Slowly and carefully we headed back down. and were soon standing on the safety of the solid rock ground again. But I wasn't through yet and tried a few other places before I found the perfect spot to get us up the cliff. The start was quite simple, and we made good time. As we got higher, however, the way became rougher, and soon our holds were thinning out. As I looked down, the beach seemed awfully small, and the tiny waves were making huge splashes on the rocks that once had been above the water line. The beach below us was vanishing under the incoming tide. What's that? Do you kids hear that? Is it coyotes or wolves? Wow, that was pretty cool, huh? Let's get back to the story. I can't wait to see what happens. We climbed faster and tried not to look down. Finally, we were almost to the top, but the 8 feet above us still basically had no handholds. Looking down, we realized that we were stranded. There was no way to get up, and there was certainly no way to go back down. Each of us took turns trying to climb the walls, but none of us could make it. Then, pushing up myself as far as I possibly could go, I strained for a hold. The other boys got below me and boosted me up. My hand finally grasped a clump of grass on the top of the cliff, but it came out. I flailed around desperately, clutching at only the air. Then I made the mistake of looking down. The combination of the shift of my weight and the wind blowing over the top of the cliff caused me to lose my balance. In that desperate moment, I remember God. And isn't that what happens a lot? We forget about God till something scary or frightening is about to happen and remember God. But God listens even then. And a plea for help went straight to heaven. My whole body tensed as I hovered over the wall, 200 feet above the rocky ocean. Finally regaining my balance, I climbed down from my perch and breathed a sigh of relief. Next, it was my brother's turn. Getting below him, I pushed him up as high as I could. It was just enough for him to grab a little plant. And straining with all his might, he slithered up the wall and laid safely on top of the cliff. With renewed courage, I once again tried to master the wall. With Craig pulling and Brett pushing, I finally made it and sat on top with my brother. But a great problem confronted us. Brett still had to come up over the wall, and no one was down there to boost him up. What was that sound? Is that someone screaming? That's the sound of a cougar. Did you know they sound just like a woman's or a man screaming? I've never heard a man scream like that, but they sound like a person screaming. There's lots of wild animals in Walla Walla at night, let me tell you. I tried with all of my might to grab Brett and pull him up. I got a hold of his wrist, but then I realized my arms were too tired. "Hang on, boys," someone yelled. A man came out of nowhere racing toward us. Throwing himself on the ground, he grabbed Brett's wrist and started to pull him up. And at last, frightened to the core, Brett lay beside us on the top of the cliff. "What on earth are you boys doing climbing those cliffs?" demanded the stranger. We wanted to see what was up here," I shakily answered. "Well, there's a road that comes up here," he replied. "And didn't you see the sign below? These cliffs are designated as a danger zone, and they are not to be climbed. 2 boys your age died 6 months ago while trying to climb these cliffs. They're a dangerous thing to try to take on, and I hope you'll never try it again. Someone must have been watching after you." "Yes, sir," I replied quietly. "We're really sorry." "Well, I'm glad you're safe now," he answered. "Come on, I'll walk you back down the right way." The walk back to Dad was a quiet, solemn one. 3 tired, very repentant, and very thankful boys lifted their hearts to heaven in a prayer of forgiveness. we were ready for that afternoon meeting now. So I hope you enjoyed that story, and I hope you enjoyed the animal sounds. Let's be quiet for just a... There is another one. What is that? Have you ever heard that sound before? Is it a bird or a bat? You know, I think someone is out there in the darkness tricking me, because there are no wolves in Walla Walla. There are no bear. There are coyotes. There are frogs and crickets. But I don't know what that last sound was, but I hear something behind me. Hey, is somebody behind me? Oh, it is somebody behind me. It's Seth Cantu, everybody. He was making all those noises. Seth, say hi to the Jam Kids.
Hey guys.
Should we do that over? Are we good?
Better.
Huh?
I think we made it better.
Okay, well, this is, you know, it's really late at night and we're probably bothering the neighbors. So, kids, I want to tell you, when you are in Walla Walla, you do not need to be afraid of any of those animals. Seth actually played those animals on his phone, and we want you to know that you are safe in our precious little valley here. Up in the mountains, we don't need to fear those animals either. We just need to be cautious and know their behavior. So I want to thank Seth for helping us tonight, and we hope you laughed when we laughed. It didn't go quite, I think a battery went out of a flashlight, Seth?
Yes.
Okay, so thank you, Seth. Tilly and Gigi, your girls, they are also Jam girls, are going to like watching that. So, kids, the reason that I told you a story about rescue is because today is Good Friday, and it's a Christian holiday where a lot of people remember that Jesus died for us. We don't know if this is the exact day, but this is the day we celebrate, like we celebrate Christmas on December 25th. And yes, even though it's the day he died, I'm calling it a celebration. You know why? Because he came to die to rescue us. Just like the stranger in the story, put his arms down the cliff and grabbed onto Brett's wrists and pulled him back up. That's what God did when he sent down Jesus. And you know, my favorite text about Jesus' death and resurrection actually isn't in the story. It's John 3:16, and I'll tell you why. It goes like this, and you know it. You can say with me. For God so loved the world that he gave. So if you ever wonder, does God love you? Yes, he does. He gave his most treasured possession. Like what you're holding in your lap right now or in your hands. That's why I had you go get it. Wouldn't you feel bad if something happened to your treasured possession? God loved you so much, he sent his son, his most treasured possession, to come down and die for you. So for God so loved the world that he gave his only son, that whoever believes in him, that means all of us. And here's the promise. Whoever believes in him will never perish. That means they will never die. They'll go to sleep in the grave, not like the sleep we have at night, but it's a temporary death. For God so loved the world that he gave his only son, that whoever believes in him will not die. And here's the greatest promise of all, but will have everlasting life. That means we'll live forever. So whether your family celebrates Easter in a big way or a little way or not at all, today, before you go to bed tonight, I want you to thank God for sending his son. And I want you to thank Jesus for dying for you and for me so that we could live forever. That's the best story I could ever tell you right there. Love you, and I'll see you next week when I have another surprise. It's another living thing, and it has fur on it. See you next week, Jam Kids. I love you. Bye-bye.